What's going on, Jeff fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. Today I want to talk some Woody Johnson as some new details emerged earlier today on Woody Johnson and his meddling with the past group that was here in Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, and more importantly, I guess Jeff Ulbrich too. So DJ Bieniemy was on with Joe Caporoso and Connor Hughes on Badlands during their current docu-series, which is going through the Jets' failings during the Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas era. You might remember DJ Bieniemy covered the New York Jets for the Daily News in 2021 and into early 2022. So they were having him on to kind of talk about the difference between how the Jets ownership handles things and how the Houston Texans, where Bieniemy is now, handles things. And it's an interesting perspective because, you know, the Texans, they drafted a quarterback second overall. He hit. They hired a defensive-minded coach who formerly played for the team. And there's like some eerily similar things between how the Jets have handled things the last few years with hiring a defensive coach, hiring a coach that played for them at one point and drafting a quarterback second overall, and some things that the Texans have done. And it's worked out for the Texans, but it didn't really work out for the New York Jets because they obviously missed very badly on the quarterback. So DJ shared two specific stories on the podcast that I think are worth discussing to just show how involved Woody Johnson actually was with the last regime. That's a question that we get, that gets brought up a lot, is how much meddling does Woody Johnson do? How much of an impact does he have on the day-to-day? And I have two different examples. So the first one, obviously you may remember, Jeff Ulbrich's first year really didn't go all that great. In 2021, the Jets defense was not very good. I remember specifically being critical of Jeff Ulbrich and, hand up, I think I was maybe too critical of him in year one because the personnel probably wasn't good enough. As we saw, there was massive improvements to the roster from year one into year two, and the defense was very, very good for 2 years after that. But Jeff Ulbrich wanted cornerbacks, and going into 2022, they signed DJ Reed in free agency, and then at the Senior Bowl, according to DJ Bieniemy, Jeff Ulbrich was talking to Brian Costello and DJ Bieniemy and was essentially asking Jets beat writers to mock a corner to the New York Jets or Sauce Gardner to the Jets at pick 4. So Woody Johnson would think it would be a good idea and to let them actually do it.
That's I remember, now that, he's in DC, he's in Atlanta now. I could tell this story. It was me and Kaz at the Senior Bowl in 2022. And Jeff Ulbrich really wanted some cornerbacks. Because he said verbatim, he was like, look, if I don't get any cornerbacks, I'm going to get fired, right? Which is why, y'all saw me that offseason saying, Bryce Hall, the Jets don't view Bryce Hall that high.
Yeah,
it wasn't just, it was a few. It wasn't just Brick. It was a few people. And obviously, the action showed why. But what he asked me and Kaz to do was hey, I just want you guys, obviously, we're interested in the corner, blah, blah, blah. We want to get corners. But I want you guys to, consistently push in the mock drafts to get for us to draft a cornerback. Why? Because Woody reads that stuff. And if he reads that stuff, he'll be more on board with that.
I mean, Jeff Ulbrich kind of played Woody Johnson like a fiddle there. No, he played it perfectly. He said, guys, you got to please do me a solid here. I need some mock drafts that have Sauce Gardner to the New York Jets. Woody Johnson reads everything, which is abundantly true. I mean, go back to the first time the Jets were on Hard Knocks in 2010, when there is a scene with literally Mike Tannenbaum printing out different news stories and handing them to Woody Johnson to see. The proof is in the pudding. This isn't like some hot take conspiracy out of nowhere. There's been tangible proof of this on national television, on HBO at least, and multiple stories from multiple different people, not just Diana Rossini, who has an axe to grind, we'll say in air quotes. There was a second example as well that DJ talked about, which was Woody Johnson asking Mike LaFleur if Zach Wilson would be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen when Zach Wilson was entering his second season.
Well, one last little tidbit. I remember I was meeting with Mike LaFleur. We were just watching film or whatever. And Woody had just left the office and was asking, this was mini camp in 2022. And he was asking Mike LaFleur, hey, granted, like, Zach was struggling that day. He wasn't struggling, but it was one of those math days. And that's when, like, the majority of the beats start to realize maybe Zach's probably not gonna be good. Was that OTA's the mini camp in 2022, because it just looked clunky, and it's mini camp and it shouldn't look clunky. But Woody, asked us Mike LaFleur, like, hey, is Zach Wilson going to turn into a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type? And Mike LaFleur was like, what? I mean, maybe. He was like, well, we'll see. He said, we're just hoping to try to get solid ball out of him. And, I think that's what kind of started to put him on the hot seat, right? Like, in the sense, because, like, Woody wanted Zach to turn into, obviously everybody wants the quarterback they draft high to turn into, like, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but, like.
So set the scene. Mike LaFleur, DJ Bieniemy, they're watching film. Woody Johnson gets out, comes in, and is asking Mike LaFleur if Zach Wilson's going to be one of the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL. And Mike LaFleur is like, I just want him to get up to where he could, play and, at a solid level. We're not even talking like number 1 or 2 in the league, but we just want him to be, solid, a good quarterback, and they couldn't get him to that point. And DJ was saying that he thought that was the beginning of the end for Mike LaFleur, because Woody Johnson had this image in his head of what Zach Wilson should be playing like, and Mahomes and Allen, the 2 best quarterbacks in the league at the time, and LaFleur was unable to get Zach Wilson to that level, or Zach Wilson was unable to get to that level. And as a result, after 2022, who was scapegoated? It wasn't Zach Wilson, it was Mike LaFleur. And it's been well documented that Woody Johnson had Robert Saleh fire Mike LaFleur. Robert Saleh had no interest in firing Mike LaFleur. That's his best friend's brother. And look, there were times where in MLF's offense where Mike White, Josh Johnson, Joe Flacco were coming out and having productive offensive outputs. And Zach was the one who was really struggling with it, at least on a consistent basis. Sure, maybe you could pinpoint a couple games over his first 2 years in the league where he was with Mike LaFleur and there were some positive signs, but there was a stretch where in like 3 of 4 straight games in 2021, the Jets had 400 yards of offense plus with Mike White against the Bengals. And then you had Josh Johnson and Mike White against the Colts. And then you had, I think, a Joe Flacco game sprinkled in there too. Point being, it became very clear that Woody Johnson blamed Mike LaFleur for Zach Wilson not working out, and he was scapegoated. So just to give you a little bit more context of how involved Woody Johnson is with this team, at least where he was. Now, he has stated multiple times this offseason that he will let Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji do their thing. And I hope he genuinely does that. I think that is the best course of action here for the Jets going forward. He hired Darren Muji. He hired Aaron Glenn. The best thing he can do now is to stay out of the way. I don't know if he's going to ever do that. I think that's the last thing that he needs to do, or the final thing, the final piece to the puzzle in order for the Jets to start getting things right. But man, it's not good. So I wanted to share that info that we got today because I was listening and said, holy crap, that's actually pretty wild that Woody Johnson and had Jeff Ulbrich asking beat reporters to mock Sauce Gardner to the Jets so that Woody would think is a good idea. Only the New York Jets, people. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Badlands podcast so you can get the full episode. They do a really good job over there. This docuseries that's out right now is really interesting. So just wanted to give them a shout out. Make sure to subscribe here if you're new. Let me know your thoughts. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll catch you next time.